So anyway,
Okay.
here we are.
Thank you for.
We're in the back room or the studio at Cheap Joe's Art Stuff in Boone, North Carolina. And I have the privilege of being with Antonio Masi, who is AWS, NWS, and all those other
No.
S's. And
I'm AWS. I'm president of the American Watercolor
Okay.
Society.
so this is your first time in Boone, North Carolina.
Yes, it is.
And you're from the
New York.
Upper East Side.
I'm New York.
So, what are your first impressions about Boone, North Carolina and Cheap Joe's?
My impressions of North Carolina, I like it. I like the landscape. I like the green. It's so green. And I like your mountains. There's almost a picture everywhere you look.
Yeah, there is.
It really is. It's very lush, very green. And I found Cheap Joe's to be extremely hospitable. I mean, they have a wonderful facility. I haven't seen a better facility to do a workshop in than this facility. I've seen a few. Your lighting is wonderful. The room is spacious. Your little area for demonstration is beautiful. So
That's
all
good
in
to
all,
know, yeah.
it's really
We do have a great place here, and we get 25, 26 artists a year to come in and teach classes. And so, Antonio, I don't know a whole lot about you, but I know that you like to paint bridges. And I know that you were in the Palette magazine, and you are working on a new project.
yes.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about some paintings.
Well,
We'll talk about your book, and we'll talk about your new project. And
I basically was born in Europe. Came here in 1947, December, almost 8 years ago. I was almost 8 when I came to America, just a couple of weeks short of being 8. I lived in New York, Manhattan, grew up in Manhattan, but I was fortunate enough to go to an art high school,
okay,
a vocational school, where the object of vocational education is to teach you skill. So when you leave high school, you get a
Right.
job.
right.
So we had wonderful teachers. For 3 years, I did art, a solid foundation at the very beginning. And then I, fortunate enough, went to the School of Visual Arts on a scholarship for 3 years.
Wow.
There was another 3 years of training. So I really was very fortunate to get a good foundation in art.
So in all of that, who were your influences during this period of time?
There was one teacher named Vogel, Donald Vogel, an elderly gentleman who did etchings.
Okay.
But he was very encouraging to the art, and he encouraged me, and I kind of felt confident when somebody believes in me. I think that's very helpful.
Right. So when you're teaching a class, is that what you want to instill into your students, or what do you want them to leave with at the end of the week?
I want the students to get a little confidence, but what I really say to them is this. I'm here to teach you how to teach yourself.
Okay.
Once you become your own instructor, that's when you start making progress. You see how things fit in. You understand how to analyze and solve the problems of art.
Right.
That's when you become your own teacher.
And I would say that most of the people in your class want to do art. They want to progress.
They certainly do want to progress, but in general, I find they want to know how you did something, how did you paint this object, how did you get that effect, which is fine. And I'm very glad to explain it to them and demonstrate it for them. But I try to keep reminding them of the fact, the point of teaching
Okay.
is so that you can learn the process of thinking and how to analyze and how to solve a problem when you face it.
Right.
It's the process that I want you to understand, not the result.
And all the school districts that have taken art out of the curriculum don't realize that art is problem solving more than most things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really is problem solving.
That's a little editorial comment.
No, but it's true. It's true. Unfortunately, the first thing in education when they want to cut back on the budget is art and music,
Right.
dance, sports later. Those are the fundamental building blocks of the character of the young person.
Right.
And they think just reading and writing is the answer, but even now they have a problem with reading and writing. It'd be interesting if they can motivate the students by keeping them in school.
Right.
They have,
And trade schools are becoming more popular now.
they're coming back.
They're coming back because
I mean,
not everybody needs a college education and they get out and they don't know how to do anything.
And that, I mean, unfortunately, I've always been a very strong believer in vocational education. I was fortunate to go to a vocational school. My vocational school was for art.
Right.
And
So on that note, what would you, when I look at your art, you definitely have a passion for bridges and structures.
well, this passion for bridges developed because my grandfather, in 1900, worked on a Queensboro Bridge, the 59th Street Bridge, for 9 years. From 1900 to 1909, he was a laborer on that bridge.
Yeah.
So when I came to America, I happened to, by luck, to wind up on 74th Street, 2nd Avenue, Manhattan, and the bridge was on 59th Street, and 2nd Avenue. So when I started doing art, I did a painting of the 59th Street Bridge just to honor my grandfather.
Right, right.
That's it. My wife, and that's not painting.
Right.
My wife said, "Oh, that's a nice painting. Why don't you enter it in the show?" So I said, no. She entered it for me in the Artist magazine, the best of watercolor for the year. It won first prize. So
You gotta,
so one thing led to the other. Says, wait a minute, bridges are nice. I enjoy doing it.
right.
So I made it a point to paint all the major bridges of Manhattan.
And you made some statement early about bridges in Manhattan and the world, or
Yes.
what is that statement?
Well, New York City. Let me just point to get this
Okay.
book out, which was the result of this. New York's golden age of bridges. Literally, for 100 years, New York City was the center of bridge building in the world. This is the first one of all, the Brooklyn Bridge. From this came all the other major bridges. And every bridge, for a long, long time, even up to this day, is a result of an inspiration of one of the bridges that was built in New York. For example, the Sydney Harbor Bridge
Okay.
in Sydney is a inspiration of our Hell's Gate Bridge up in the Bronx and Queens. So our bridges in New York were the source, the inspiration for other people throughout the world for 100 years.
So bridges have impacted lots of people.
Without bridges, there would be no cities. There would be no transportation, there would be no.
Right.
They are the lifeline. They are the connection.
So interpreting your work, I look at your work and I see kind of this atmospheric, kind of impressionistic kind of thing. I mean, is that how you would describe what you do?
I would describe my work something like this as expressionistic with impressionist handling.
Okay.
Combination of the two. I create a mood, an expressive mood
Right.
of what I feel when I look at the subject.
Right.
But I handle it in an impressionistic manner.
Okay.
If I painted this the way it really is, meaning hard edges,
Right.
steel, it would be an architectural rendering.
Right. Right.
By handling it in an impressionistic manner,
Right.
it becomes more in the realm of art.
Right. muted colors.
Well, in this particular painting, I wanted to play kind of a trick on people.
Okay.
The idea is that most things on the ground are solid and dark
Right.
and heavy. I wanted to do a painting where I create the reverse. My heaviness, my darkness is on top. As we go further down, it gets lighter and more indistinct.
Right.
So this was kind of a trick I was playing on my, in art, doing something different.
Right. Well, I was talking to Charles Reeve, and it's kind of like sometimes the foreground is super rendered,
Mhm.
sometimes the background is super
Right.
rendered, and the foreground is kind of misty and. Now this, you had a lot of paintings hanging on the wall. This struck me. Just that the feeling that you've expressed here with the light and airy rendering of the subject.
All my paintings are done from a place that I have been to.
Okay.
So even though I have little sketches that I do of them,
Right.
I take a photograph and a photograph for me is a memory jogger.
Right,
I can't
right.
remember. Even though I have that reference, when I paint, I try to remember where I was standing when I was looking at this, and what I felt. What I'm trying to create in my work is a sense of place.
Okay.
I want you to look at my painting, and maybe if you've been there, says, "Oh yes, I know that place. I know what it is. I feel it."
Right.
And if somebody who's never been to it says, "Wow, I feel like I know the place. I feel it." So I'm trying to create a sense of place.
And I've been there, so
Yeah.
and I recognized it. And
But it's an impressionistic
Right.
handling,
Right.
but with an expressionistic,
Right.
emotional way of handling it.
so you've got New York's Golden Age of Bridges, and you're currently working on a new project.
Well, right now, this project is at the printers.
Okay, it's at the printer.
This is a manuscript for proofreading. It's at the printers right now. The press release date is September 5th. It's on Amazon right now for pre-orders.
Okay.
People want it. It's called Lady Liberty.
Okay.
It basically is the story of the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, and immigration. I feel the three are all interrelated.
Right.
And how they developed or became what they are in America today.
Right.
It ties right into what's going on today.
Right.
It's a relevant subject.
It's interesting as we talk, I get a real sense that you're not just a history buff, but you have a sense of place
Yes.
and a sense of purpose. And that things that you do, you've kind of blended who you are and where you live and what it means to be in New York and bridges and Statue of Liberty. There's a lot going on there that if you didn't stop to
Well,
notice
if
it.
you know me, you know my background, my upbringing, I'm an immigrant.
Okay.
I came through America. I saw the Statue of Liberty for the first time from the ship at night.
Okay.
Those emotions,
Right.
as an 8-year-old child, and riding across the North Atlantic for 13 days to get here
Right.
on a freighter. Those emotions as a child have always been with me. I got the opportunity when I was asked to paint pictures, and my co-author, Joan Marensden, who did the text, she was a high school friend of mine. All those emotions came back. And going to Ellis Island, going to see the Statue of Liberty, all those things I have experienced, which I try to
Right.
express in my work, in my paintings. I only paint things that I can feel,
Right.
because that's what I know best, and I know New York the best.
Paint what you know. I
Absolutely.
mean, that's a.
And paint what you know and paint it honestly, and you can't really expect any more.
I'm reminded as we talk of something that's kind of seemingly related but not related to art, and that is when I visit a place like New York, and you go into a restaurant or you go into a deli, there's 350 items of food, and you know the people that have been there came from the Bronx or Queens or Brooklyn, and they got there at 4:30 in the morning to get everything set up, and just that sense of they did that so that I could be there and enjoy. It's about the place. It's about the people too, that every day they come in and they put themselves on the line so that you and I can have our dinner, have our lunch, have our breakfast, have our bagels, whatever. And New York is one of those melting pots of art and history and dance and music and theater and.
Well, think of this. What other city in the world is like New York, which has more than 170 nationalities living in it at once?
I love that melting pot. I love being on the subway. And you're not supposed to watch people, but you kind of you just all kinds of people, and then all the neighborhoods, the Diamond District, the Meatpacking District, the West Village, the East Village, Battery Park, the High Line, which we talked about the other day, where it used to be the railroad came in.
Yes, those rails used to come in right into Manhattan.
Right.
And they used to go into the buildings,
right.
The warehouses, right into the buildings to unload.
It's an amazing place.
It is. It really has a history. And we're trying to capture some of that feeling.
Right. And that's what I get when I, just your love of the history behind your art.
It's a history, but I try to express the human aspect of that history. It's not, to me, and also my co-author Joan is very conscious that we're not just trying to write a history of the book or of the Lady Liberty, but the people behind it, that what they had to go through to get it done. I mean, for example, Grover Cleveland, who was the president when the statue was dedicated, 2 years before it was dedicated, he was the governor of New York. He vetoed $50,000 to have the statue accepted and built. He vetoed it. But it got built anyway, better still, by private citizens. 2 years later, he's president. He's at the inauguration of the dedication of it. He's praising it like it was his idea. So, those are the stories behind these things. They make it human for me.
Right. And this will last after you and I have gone on to our final resting place. And just that completion or that continuation of.
Well, for me, it's like I'm leaving a painting back, and it's here, and it's generations of people who see the painting, they see my name. There was a guy by the name of Antonio Masi who painted the bridge. I'm looking at it. Well, these books to me represent something I'm leaving behind of my feelings when I was here, when I was walking this earth. And maybe somebody else will identify it, maybe they won't, I don't know. But to me, it's something that I feel relieved that I can put down and leave it behind for somebody else to look at.
Well, it's been an enjoyable time talking, and is there any kind of last minute words of wisdom to all those thousands of people that are going to be watching us on YouTube? Or
art is an expression of life. Good, true art expresses the human soul, whether it's abstract, realism, super realism, or hyper realism. It doesn't really matter. Art is nothing more, in essence, than an expression of what the human feels inside.
Right.
And if you paint that way, regardless of your technique or your subject matter, you're creating art, and that art is beautiful.
That almost led to another thought. All of those workers that built those bridges
Yes.
put something into it. And now you're taking something that they put into it and you're putting your own spin on what they did.
All those workers who worked on those bridges were all immigrants. Those bridges would have never been built if there wasn't no labor there. See, it's all tied in. The past
Right.
and the present and the future are all tied together.
So, in the future, I guess we'll see you maybe in a couple of years or whatever.
If I get invited,
If
we'll
you
see
get
how it
invited.
goes.
So you've had a good time.
I had a wonderful time there. Like I said, the people down here, it's my first trip. The studio is wonderful. The people are very hospitable and friendly.
Right.
And,
Southern hospitality
well,
in the mountains.
human.
Human
Yeah.
hospitality.
And Joe Miller is a wonderful person and a generous person.
Right.
And all I can say is, all you artists who want to paint, come on down.
Come on down. Antonio, thank you very much.
You're welcome.